A mysterious man is sitting alone in a cafe, pondering to himself that the spider powers Peter Parker has should have belonged to him. All the perks Peter got from these powers, including a pretty girlfriend, a secret identity, and a life of high adventure, should have been his. In the meantime, a waiter questions him about the quality of the food, as he is not eating anything. The guy lashes out at the waiter. Peter Parker, on the other hand, is fighting Rhino in the streets. He's not sure why Rhino has attacked him out of nowhere and that all of this is a mistake. Upon inquiring about the reason, Rhino tells him that he made a mistake by interfering with his bank robbery. Peter, however, mocks him, stating that fighting him was a mistake as he always gets hurt during battle. This angers Rhino, and he ambushes Peter with everything he's got but misses as Peter teases him. Rhino hurls a huge truck at him, but it comes back to haunt him as Peter uses his web to change its trajectory and strikes Rhino instead. The people who were watching all this were shocked at how quick-witted Spider-Man is, including the man who was cursing Peter a while ago. He thinks to himself that Peter must consider himself a hero for all his deeds like talking to the cops and signing autographs. With this, Rhino gets arrested, and the police take him away. The man's jealousy, on the other hand, has reached its peak. He wanted everything Peter has ever achieved in his life. Following this, as Peter is resting at Aunt May's house and enjoying cake, she asks him whether he did her laundry alongside his, to which Peter replies positively. This saddens Aunt May as Peter accidentally ruined the tablecloth Uncle Ben and May had received as a wedding gift. Peter apologizes and promises that he will get a similar piece, but Aunt May tells him that he won't be able to find one. As Peter is sulking over this loss, May assures him that it is useless to cry over spilled milk. She then questions him about his date with Skye and later tells him a story about his Uncle Ben when he was in the military. She tells him that the first thing they did when Uncle Ben came back from the army was dance. Peter asks her to teach him the dance, and then they dance together to an old song. Meanwhile, it turns out the strange man who was jealous of Peter was his classmate in school, who used to bully him for no reason. He used to tell him that Aunt May paid him to bully him and used to beat Peter up. Following this, Peter heads over to the Daily Bugle to sell his pictures, but J. Jameson bluntly refuses to buy his pictures as they're not worth it. As Peter was about to head back, one of his assistants, Miss Patton, asked him to hand over the pictures as she might be able to persuade Jameson. Peter expresses his gratitude and leaves. Later that day, as Miss Patton was about to head home, the strange guy appeared out of nowhere and attacked her. Patton used pepper spray to keep him away, but all in vain, as the guy transformed into a monster and took over her body. With all this going on, Peter was attending a party with Skye and her friends. He tried his very best to get mixed up with them by making weird jokes, but it had the exact opposite effect, and they ignored him. Even after drinking loads of champagne, Peter had no success. When Skye's friends asked him about his profession, Peter told them that he was a photographer for the Daily Bugle, and this was the end of his social interaction. Later on, as he was standing all alone, Skye approached him and questioned him regarding his behavior and why he's acting so lame. Peter reassures her that he will be fine and that she should enjoy the party. Things were going smoothly until he said something he shouldn't have and got kicked out of the party. As he was heading back home, he encounters Miss Patton on the way. She tells him that her boyfriend dumped her and she has nowhere to go. Being the gentleman that he is, Peter offered her to stay at his home, which she accepted. However, it was not Miss Patton that Peter knew. It was a strange fat guy who had transformed into her. Back when Peter was in high school, that guy used to bully him for not making his assignments. Upon reaching home, Peter tells her to take a shower. Meanwhile, he arranges some clothes for her. As they are conversing, Miss Patton mentions Spiderman, which baffles Peter, and he turns around only to witness Miss Patton's twisted neck. She then kicks Peter, hurling him into the wall and grabs him by his collar. Peter punches her and distorts her face, only to get tossed out of the window. As Peter changes into his costume, the monster confronts him outside, announcing that he is the 1000. As they are fighting, the monster tells Peter that he has been watching him all this time, which shocks Peter, and he questions him about it. The monster, instead of answering him, keeps striking Peter, who is hesitant to hit Miss Patton's body. The monster tells him that he had devoured Miss Patton completely, and there's nothing left of her. Following this, he bites Peter on his neck, rendering him unconscious. After some time, Peter wakes up bound to a chair with the monster standing in front of him. The monster questions him if she remembers him, to which Peter replies negatively. Disappointed, the monster mocks him, stating that who forgets the person who made them eat dog shit. With this, Peter immediately realizes that it was his childhood bully, Carl King. Carl tells him that he knew about his little secret from the very beginning. He saw him getting bit by the radioactive spider and followed him around for a couple of days, witnessing all his wild adventures. After seeing all this, he wanted that power, but what he got was way different. Something that could live inside, that could liquefy the innards of a man and walk the earth within its hollow shell. With this, a horde of spiders appears from the body of Miss Patton and approaches Peter, trying to take over his body. As he is pestering Peter, Mr. Ambrose appears in his room after all this commotion and gets startled after witnessing all these huge spiders. Peter tells him to run away, but it was too late, as the Thousand comments that he cannot let him leave alive and takes over his body. He then warns Peter that it will be his turn next. Following this, he enlightens Peter about the way he got his powers. He tells him that he investigated the radioactive spider that bit him, but it was already dead, so he had to resort to plan B, which was to eat the spider. Nothing happened for the next couple of days, but one day when he woke up, he noticed some strange changes in his body. He devoured his mom and dad that day, and each time he devoured someone, the process got much quicker and easier. His body had broken down into 1,000 spiders, and they were part of his consciousness. Peter was shocked at this, but Carl tells him that it was a part of his rotten personality. Peter then remarks, stating that he's just like a 2-year-old child who graduated from potty training. With this, he breaks out from his shackles and ambushes Carl, telling him that he remembers him clearly as someone who had no friends and was hated by everyone at school. He calls him a sadist as he punches him right in the face. This angers Carl, and he denies Peter's allegations, throwing him out the window. According to him, Peter has no right to pass judgment on him as he had it all easy. He then tells him about his girlfriend whom he had to devour as eating humans made him stronger. He had to get even stronger if he were to fight Spider-Man. Upon inquiring about the number of humans he'd devoured, Carl tells him that he devours over 12 humans every year. He then mocks Peter for being so miserable and weak even though he has superpowers. Hearing this, Peter stands up and tells him that he is no longer afraid of him, punching him right across the face. This punch unleashes the spider lurking in his head that had been controlling everything. Furious, Carl picks up Peter, throwing him away, and as he was about to deal the finishing blow, he accidentally punches the electric supply, electrifying himself. This marked the end of the 1,000. Following this, Peter decided to stay over at his aunt's house as his apartment was not in good shape. He then offers Aunt May to dance with him. In the meantime, one of the spiders of the 1,000 was still alive, lurking in the shadows as it got out. Someone accidentally squished it beneath their feet.